I've been at TechCrunch for a little over 10 years, and I do that because I get to have the most interesting conversations with the most interesting people.
The biggest advice is when you go to events like this, remember that it's not just about pitching your startup. It's try to actually network and meet people and talk to them.
I didn't personally satisfy the accredited investor requirements, so I know how it felt to not have access to these opportunities, knowing that they're right at our fingertips.
Welcome to another episode of Forging the Future, and I'm here in San Francisco for TechCrunch Disrupt, and we're talking to Jeff Taylor, the Global Commercial Partnership Manager for TechCrunch. Great to have you here, Jeff.
Thanks, Chris. It's nice to see you.
Yeah, absolutely. So what do you do here at TechCrunch?
I work with our commercial partners. TechCrunch consists of two sides, the commercial side and the editorial side. And so I work with everybody from startups all the way to large enterprise companies, leveraging our event and digital advertising portfolios to accomplish three broad missions. My clients typically bring goals that align with broadly brand, setting a brand story, telling a brand story, resetting a brand story. My clients are also interested in thought leadership. How do I expose our innovations, our primary differentiators, the way that we think about the world in a way that's going to attract a variety of different kinds of deal flow? It could be M&A, it could be a funding round, it could be ecosystem growth, it could be client acquisition, it could be something a little more quantifiable. And so across those three broad missions, my job is to leverage our offerings to accomplish those goals.
Interesting.
I also do a lot of pitch coaching. I work with startups on the side who are interested in understanding how they might further themselves in the world. I've been at TechCrunch for a little over 10 years, and I do that because I get to have the most interesting conversations with the most interesting people.
Nice. Well, so this is one of the largest shows in certain metrics, right? I mean, what's the size of the show, and how is TechCrunch evolving this year?
When you think about the size of a show, there are a variety of ways to scale those metrics. By attendance, we're going to run somewhere around 13 to 15,000 people at Disrupt this year. That's a new record for us. But there are a couple of things that are driving that growth. TechCrunch used to do a series of one-day events around mobility, around SaaS, around aerospace. And we folded those into our 6 industry stages this year in order to create a deeper and richer networking experience. Because what we find is that the size of the show isn't reflected in the number of attendees. It's reflected in the energy that's released when people are networking together. You want your next conversation to be productive, and you want it to have legs. When you put a deeply niched crowd that's richly experienced into a room and they start talking with each other, any number of very good things happen. You can also talk about value. How does a show release value among its constituency? TechCrunch and Disrupt are startup shows. TechCrunch reports obsessively about the startup and funding industry and all of the folks who align with that. So we run our Battlefield 200 every year, where we will take thousands of applications and whittle those down to the strongest 200. And then we surface those for the purposes of ventures, for the purpose of corporate venture, for the purposes of people who are looking to align with and to work with startups. And so the value that's released in that process is significant. That culminates in our Battlefield 20, which are our finalists who are pitching off every afternoon at the show.
Okay.
If you had just invested in our Battlefield winners over the last 12 or 13 years, you'd 4x the stock market easily.
Wow. Is there a way to invest in those startups, or you have to invest directly?
You have to be an accredited investor. There are some firms who will allow you and have vehicles for being able to accumulate investment into these startups. Companies like Mint, Dropbox, Cloudflare launched on our stages because we're dedicated to servicing and surfacing the strongest startups in the industry, and our media umbrella allows us to do that.
You coached our startups that were coming to the show last week about how to get the most out of TechCrunch, and you had an interesting formula and some advice. Thought maybe you could share that for everyone.
Sure. Disrupt is the kind of event where if you just sit in your booth space, It's like waiting at the bus stop for your next relationship. It's not necessarily your most successful option. And so it's important for founders to have a couple of tools to be able to go out and work a show floor like ours. The first one is a crisp pitch. Disrupt is a very noisy environment. And the way you rise above that noise is with fewer words, not more. And so I ask people to put together a 7 to 10 second pitch that tells somebody who they are, what they do, and why they come to Disrupt. Are you doing client acquisition? Are you doing a funding round? Are you entertaining funding conversations? Early stage, late stage? Who are you so that when you talk to somebody, you know what a successful conversation start looks like? Second thing, do your pre-work. Who's on the floor? Who's in attendance? And our application, our app is great at putting people in front of each other so that you can request meetings before you get here. So you should hit the floor at Disrupt with an idea of who you want to talk to, where they are. You should have reached out to set as many meetings as you possibly can. And then while you're here, take advantage and have one person here in the space and one person wandering the floor.
Any other prep you would recommend for a startup founder coming to TechCrunch? If they don't have a booth, they just want to attend?
Oh, yes. You'll find that somewhere around 40% of the people who come to Disrupt are startup founders. Not all of them are showing on the show floor. And so people come with a variety of motives in their pocket, but you also need to know, where are you in your industry? Who else is working on the same kinds of problems that you're working on? What are your primary differentiators and how does that make you interesting? And how are you going to take investment and turn that into venture scale returns? Why are you a venture scale company?
Mm-hmm. And so there's also a lot of investors here, right? I mean, I saw a number of them come through the booth.
Yes.
Investors are also looking for great startups to invest in. I saw the stage with Visa and some of the other breakouts that you have. So it is a target-rich environment. Right?
Yes.
It's not just founders talking to other founders, all looking for the same thing, right?
No. One of the things that TechCrunch does so well, and we do this with our media umbrella, we've got 10 million direct readers. We've got some 20 or 30 million indirect readers. And so we signal that flywheel of funders and innovators and funders and innovators. We carry the tier one relationships with most of the VCs on the globe. We've done our startup battlefield in a variety of different countries internationally. And most of those companies are still in business. Some have been acquired. They're generating revenue. They've been very, very strong players because we're good at surfacing good innovations and we're good at calling the funding community to town.
Okay. What other events are coming up, maybe the remainder of the year, the beginning of next year, that a founder investor might be interested in?
Sure. So there's a couple of things that we'll be doing. On the public side, we'll be mounting our early stage event, which is for early stage founders in Boston, April 25th next year.
Okay.
That's designed for everybody from idea stage companies, MVP companies through Series A, to understand, how do I launch my startup? How do I do my first critical hires? How do I think about growth and product market fit? And so we bring industry folks in to talk about those kinds of topics. Then we'll do Disrupt again next fall. And in the meantime, we offer a variety of ways to interact. We'll be running a series of private dinners. We do different kinds of industry events that we do on a private basis, both for clients and including our editorial staff. So there's a couple of different ways to engage with us.
And is there a good way for a startup founder to engage with TechCrunch or get value out of TechCrunch in between these events?
Yeah.
Okay.
Read our website.
Okay. So read
Subscribe
the
to
articles.
TechCrunch Plus.
Okay.
It is the best how-to that you'll find around how to do that.
What do you get with TechCrunch Plus? I mean, what is that?
TechCrunch Plus is designed specifically as a how-to for early stage founders.
Okay.
You'll learn how to build your pitch deck. You'll learn how to do your pitch. You'll learn what investors are looking for. You'll learn how to organize your startup and how to be successful in some of your very first steps that are critical in terms of making it in the market space.
What's the reason to pick Boston as a location for, the early stage event?
The East Coast is a rich environment, both from a funding perspective and from an innovator perspective. And so we have spent a lot of time operating around the world and operating in various places inside of the US. And so Boston, when you look at heat maps in terms of where funding is going, Boston is not only a significant source of funding flows, but it's also situated well enough on the East Coast that it's very accessible from New York and from Miami.
Interesting. Well, I'd like to see a TechCrunch in Houston someday. The Texas Triangle's coming up strong, so
Right?
keep it on the radar.
Totally. Always willing to have that conversation.
Yeah. Okay, well, good. Well, let me know. Maybe we'll help. All right, well, great. Thanks for coming on the podcast today. I've got a little swag bag for you with some Softex socks inside. So
Chris, that's very
thanks,
kind.
Jeff.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, and really, really excited to be here at the show. And I think it's a great event for us and for founders. So any startups out there, check it out.
We're very pleased to partner with you. Thank you for joining us at Disrupt. Always let us know how we're helpful.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
Be well.
Welcome to Forging the Future, and I'm here today in San Francisco at TechCrunch Disrupt. And today I'm speaking with Hussein Yahfoufi. He is the product manager at Art of Finance, which is an AI-powered investing firm. So thanks for coming on the show.
Hey, Chris, thanks for having me.
Yeah, and you're originally from Lebanon?
Originally from Lebanon. This is a long ways away from Lebanon, right?
Yeah. Well, we have a few people from Lebanon, and one
Yeah.
of my regional business managers is from Lebanon. So,
Awesome.
Who you know,
Awesome.
Ibrahim, I believe. So,
Yeah.
yeah, and you moved to San Diego when?
So I moved in 2001.
2001.
Went to San Diego for school, and once you get to San Diego, you're not leaving.
It's
That's
hard
it.
to leave when it's that constant 75 degrees year round or whatever it is.
Yep.
So, you know,
Yep.
and it's not and low humidity, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then you're also the founder of GPT Hacks. What's that about?
Yeah, so GPT Hacks is basically an AI newsletter, but targeted for business growth, right? So
Okay.
I just share tips and ideas on how to use Chat GPT, Google Bard, other AI tools to help you grow your business.
Okay, and it's a weekly newsletter anybody
Weekly
can sign
newsletter.
up for?
Yep, on
Okay.
gpthacks.com, basically.
Do you think AI and GPT is going to really change the future, or what's your
I
opinion?
think it already is.
Yeah.
You know, the one thing I keep thinking about is when I had my startup before joining, selling it to Arta and joining them was, what could I have done with ChatGPT for my business? You know, it's so powerful. Not only ChatGPT, but Bard and all the other ones.
Yeah.
It's
Well, I
it's
mean, I
pretty
think that's
unbelievable.
one difference. You know, for tech geeks like me back in the day when the internet came out, I mean, it was transformational. But a lot of
Yep.
people are like, well, what the heck is this? And what's a .com? And why do I care? And all
Yep.
that. But I mean, I think the difference with AI and ChatGPT is that it's immediately powerful.
Yes.
And it's very accessible to anybody, right? You
Yes.
don't need to know how to train large language models. You don't have to be a Python developer. You don't have to take the Stanford AI class in order to figure out how to use it. You just have to type in English and ask it a question, and you get an answer.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and you can use
Exactly.
it for so many things already.
Yep.
Right? I mean, if you're not looking at how to apply AI and ChatGPT and other GPT large language models in your business, now you're behind,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you don't need to be a developer to do it.
Yeah, yeah, and it's also it's something that's applicable to basically every part of the organization, right? As long as you know what prompts to use, it can be useful, right? Summarizing articles, helping you prepare for a podcast, like all of these things are possible.
Do you think there's going to be such a role like a prompt engineer?
You know, I don't know if I guess if you're a really big company and you've got people specialized to only help you optimize your prompts, I think it's going to be a thing that we all learn and have to use, right? Just like we learned how to use the internet, we learned how to use Excel. That was a big thing when I started using Excel at work.
Yeah.
It's the same thing here, right? Do you know how to use ChatGPT or not? I think it's going to be a skill set. I remember when I used to read resumes and people would say MS Office, experience. And like nobody does that anymore because of course you know how to use a word processor. I think it's going to be the
Or
same.
you should be.
Yeah, yeah,
I am surprised every once in a while by someone's lack of general skills in Office and Excel, but you know, it should be table stakes. You're
yeah,
right.
yeah.
And nowadays, I mean, you need to play around with it. You can use it to help you, do so many things. Feed it.
Yeah.
You want to do a LinkedIn post. I mean, I've used it even for that. Write
Yeah.
me an exciting LinkedIn post about this topic, and then you tweak 5% of it, and then it comes out really good.
Yeah.
So what type of advisor do you want to be like for startups? I mean, what's your kind of core competence? Just entrepreneurship in general, or do you like specific startups?
Yeah. So I tend to help people with, seems like it's always with positioning and telling their stories. Even though I'm not a marketer, like my background is product, I feel like whenever I meet founders, that's the piece they're always struggling with is how to position yourself. What are you working on? How to position your product? How to explain your story? Why are you fundraising? How are you fundraising? Like the storytelling piece seems to be missing. And so I do a lot of talks about storytelling, tying the story of your company into your product, into your mission, into what you're building, so that it's, you can't build and they will come. You have to tell the story through your marketing and your product.
And why do you think startup founders are challenged in that area?
I think most of them are either really good engineers, brilliant minds, and they're focused on building the best product, writing the best code and getting that out the door. And they have brilliant ideas. They just, I feel like sometimes they worry about speaking too much about what they do. Like they come across as they're bragging or they're, overselling. And marketing is about positioning, is about telling what you do. And sometimes overselling is okay, as long as it's, there's a little bit of it, not a lot, but.
Yeah, there's always this little bit of distrust between like product and engineers and sales and marketing, and so I think it's hard for them to kind of put on that hat.
Yeah.
Because now they are that person.
Yeah.
And, they want to be very literal.
Yeah. But you have to be, right? I mean, if you're the founder, you have to put on that hat and you have to explain what you do. And it has to be a story, right? You read. There's a lot of landing pages where you go to the landing page, you read through, you scroll, you get to the end, like, I have no idea what this does. Like, why would anybody use this?
Have you been to Disrupt before?
So it's been a while since I've been to Disrupt, but it's been a great event, right? I think I heard there's 12 or 13,000 people here. And I would say maybe the biggest advice is, when you go to events like this, remember that it's not just about pitching your startup. It's try to actually network and meet people and talk to them.
Learn from them, let them talk.
Learn from them, all of that. And then eventually you can start weaving in your startup into the conversation. So last night, when we met, it was completely accidental. This was already planned ahead of time, but small world.
That's right.
But I feel like you and I had a really good conversation, right? And it took a while until we got into what do you do? What do you do? And, so remember it's people, right? And nobody wants to be pitched nonstop.
Yeah.
Where I was standing when you and I met, I had stepped away from the kind of chaos to take a break because people would just come up to me and go, hey, I'm John. What do you do? It's like, or, hi, I'm Lucy, and let me tell you about my startup. And it's like, no. Hi, Lucy. Like, let's talk a little bit.
Right. Yeah, have a conversation, have a relationship, maybe get around to the fact, especially at a social networking event.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of startup founders do discount the collisions and networking and the events. And a lot of times at an event like this, the opportunities are in the in-between moments.
Yes.
Right? Yeah, you can learn some stuff, go to a talk, whatever, but then go out into the lobby and just chat up someone randomly and just find out what they're doing.
Yeah.
Don't even think about like pitching first, right?
Yeah,
just like,
exactly.
Who are you? What do you do? Why are you here? Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And
No, that's right. And that's how you build the relationship, right? So if you meet somebody, you learn about their kids, you learn about what their hobbies are, anything like that, you connect with them on LinkedIn, that outreach that you can do is, hey, Mark, how's your tennis game going, right? Or Jennifer, how are your kids? You mentioned your young one was sick. Like, hopefully he feels better. Like those kinds of things where it makes it where the recipient's going to want to respond to you, right?
Yeah.
But if it's, you walk around and you just scan people's LinkedIn and then you start spamming them with automated messages, it's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
I would also add one more thing, which is do the events when you don't need anything. When you're not raising, you're not looking for a job, you're not looking for anything. You're just literally going to meet people. Because that puts you in a position where you don't feel that pressure of what you're just here to meet people. That's it.
sometimes hard to get in that mentality when you're trying not to drown, basically, you know, but it's true. I mean, it's the best time to get a bank loan is when you don't need it.
That's true.
Right? Because
That
it's
is
like
true.
that desperation in whatever you're doing doesn't really help you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a good point. No, I found the networking here to be really great. I think
Yeah.
if you are a startup founder, this is like the Super Bowl of startups, right?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
A lot of people are here, a lot of networking, a lot of opportunities, other founders that you can bounce ideas off of, or share journeys, all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. So
Yeah.
it's been a great show for us so far.
Yeah, it's been awesome.
Okay, well, great. Well, I appreciate you coming on the podcast, sharing a little bit about what you do. I'm sure we'll cross paths again. We already did. So really enjoyed the conversation. Thanks,
Awesome.
Hussein.
Well, thanks, Chris. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Welcome to Forging the Future, and I'm here in San Francisco at TechCrunch Disrupt, and I'm talking to Ray Fuentes from Link2, the community director.
Thank you very much for having me, Chris. How are you, sir?
Yeah, it's nice to meet you, Ray.
Good to meet you as well.
So what is Link2? What's that about?
Link2 is a transformative company, sir. We are democratizing access to the world of private equity. With our application, investors are able to invest into high quality, transformative, tech-enabled private companies. We have found our product market around private companies, or the equity of private companies, allowing originally accredited investors to invest into these hard-to-reach investment vehicles.
I'm with you. I mean, the fact that you can go to Vegas and lose all your money and mortgage your house and then cash in your plane ticket used to be in the old days. You literally cash in your plane ticket in order to bet and lose your money in Vegas, but you can't like put $2,500 into a startup. And this is somehow blocked by this accredited investor rule where, you know, it's only people that with money that can make money in the startup space. So I'm really looking forward to that barrier being broken.
I appreciate that, Chris. It doesn't make sense why a large population in the world has been underserved for far too long. So Link2 is on a mission to provide access to that demographic of individuals, that community of investors, and we're really proud to be doing so, sir.
Well, much better bet than putting it all on black.
Absolutely. No, you know, investing is a risk, you know, so nothing is guaranteed, but I'd say Link2 reduces risks by the amount of and level of scrutiny that we put in underwriting and reviewing the fundamentals for these companies. So we're thankfully comprised with 70 passionate individuals on Link2. I was probably number 30 employee. I've started January 1st of 2022. I've been an investor in Link2's platform since 2021. So about a year before. So seeing Link2 from the other side of the fence as a customer, and in full transparency, Chris, when I first came to know and love Link2 in 2019, I didn't personally satisfy the accredited investor requirements. So I know how it felt to not have access to these opportunities, knowing that they're right at our fingertips thanks to the Link2's platform. So, you know, now fast forward 3 years, it's a different story. And I'm proud to see that how far we've come, the amount of portfolio companies on our platform. And I mean, even our valuation, it's doubled in the past year. When I first came to Link2, Chris, we had about, let's just say, 8 portfolio companies. Fast forward today, we have about 45. We had about 50,000 users on our platform when I first came to be an employee January 2022. We have 300,000 today. And now we're over $270 million in total member investments. And again, those are just testaments to our mission, and I'd say our promise to democratize access to the world of private equity and providing opportunities to people like me.